space, and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. And Seaboard Marine. With over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling Seaboard Marine at 949-4977.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today is Wednesday, the 12th day of September 2018. I trust that everyone had a peaceful, restful night and you're raring to go this morning. I want to thank you, our listening and viewing audience, for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the very busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls. When it isn't that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson, it's either Mr. Paul Akai, or this morning, we have DJ Lynn with us. You're welcome to join us in the conversation by calling us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. If you don't like to talk on the telephone, email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at CANDW.KY. We also have a WhatsApp number. That WhatsApp number is 925-3261, where you can leave us a text message or a voicemail, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show as well. And, of course, you can follow us on YouTube by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream as well. This morning, it's just Wednesday, the date that has been reserved for independent member Mr. Kenneth Bryan to be on the show, and he will be joining us shortly. Before that, first of all, I'd like to extend our condolences to the family of the cyclist who lost his life, unfortunately, in a collision with an automobile yesterday on the Esther Litibitz Highway. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, they still have not released his name, and they have indicated that they will do so sometime this morning, so I will refrain from calling the name of the deceased as well. But the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service will be releasing the name sometime this morning once they have been able to contact family members. The individual is a national of Australia, so detectives and officials are in the process of contacting his family. After that is done, then the name will be released. I wanted to thank my fellow daybreaker cyclists this morning on our ride. We left the Savannah area at about 4:15 this morning, and we stopped at the site of the accident, the spot of the accident, just to observe a minute of silence for our fallen brother as well. And, of course, there were candles that were lit that were there, as well as a bouquet of roses and a wreath that obviously have been left there by other friends. I believe There was also a group that he was associated with, cycling. They held a little observance for him at his favorite place, I believe, at Sunset House sometime yesterday as well. But our prayers go out to his family as well. Road safety is something that we need to talk about. The discussion needs to continue, not only for cyclists, for pedestrians as well, but as well as fellow drivers. And I will refrain at this point in time from discussing road safety, simply because I don't want anyone to associate what may be said with what occurred yesterday, because we don't know, we do not have an official version of what occurred yesterday in relation to that accident. So until that has been determined and publicly released, we won't comment any more on that. But just simply to say that when you're on the roads, whether you're a driver, whether you're a cyclist, whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're a motorcycle rider, a skateboarder, whatever, you have to be extremely cautious, and you always have to look out for the other persons on the road as well. You have to be as defensive as possible when you're driving, for instance. I see people driving side by side and driving at high rates of speed, cars in front of them, cars behind them. When you're driving, one of the ways to drive defensively is always to leave yourself an out. That means you leave enough space between you and the vehicle in front of you. You leave enough space between you and the vehicle on the side of you. So rather than driving parallel to each other, you may want to have a little offset so that you're off to the rear of that vehicle. But you always want to give yourself an out. Same thing when you're riding a bicycle, when you're riding a motorcycle. Always give yourself an out. So again, thanks to my Daybreaker cyclists, fellow cyclists this morning as well. Some knew the gentleman much more closely than others. Based on what I'm hearing, he was loved by everyone, was extremely friendly, was an extremely friendly person, and no doubt his presence here on Earth, and in particular in the Cayman Islands, amongst the cycling community, the running community, will be missed as well. Several things we want to talk about. I want to not continue a conversation, but one of my listeners, when we were talking on Monday, and I spoke about Hamilton, Hamilton, the capital of Bermuda, and the fact that there are cruise ships that dock up in Hamilton as well as Dockyard and in St. George's. And one of our listeners wanted me to note that Bermuda is not a valid comparison for traffic. And I would admit, yes, that Bermuda is not a valid comparison for traffic. But what I was comparing at that point in time was the waterfront area, the downtown area, which has been mainly pedestrianized because of the cruise ships. That is much similar to what we have on Harbor Drive here. I believe in Bermuda it's called Front Street, and very, very similar, but it has been a lot of it has been pedestrianized because of the cruise ships, and at the same time, cruise passengers as well as other traffic in that area are able to coexist. And you don't hear the Bermudans complaining too much about when cruise ships are in, how it inconveniences them, simply because it is a part of their industry. They rely on it, and they learn to coexist with it. And we need to do the same thing here. Another one of our listeners wanted to talk and wrote into us about the flooding. And I will read verbatim what that listener wrote, says, Dear Mr. Host, why is it that year in and year out we continuously experience the same problem with flooding in strategic areas in Grand Cayman, especially Georgetown, yet no proactive solution is put in place to address this problem? We only react every time these areas are flooded by deploying the NRA crews to blow out the drain wells. This is only a temporary fix. Why is it that a comprehensive study hasn't been done as yet to address the recurring flooding of these areas? Does government really care? Is the Premier and his team aware that this flooding year in and year out is depressing and traumatic to the residents? Something must be done about this problem. It's time that government realize that drilling numerous amounts of wells alone will not solve this problem. Kind regards, a very concerned resident. Again, yes, flooding. But when you get the type of downpour, the amount of downpour of rain that we got, if you were out there on Sunday, for instance, and that driving rain, just torrents of rain coming down, you are going to have flooding. There is no type of drainage in the world that is going to be able to address that. We also need to bear in mind that water finds its own level. When it comes down, it has to have some place to go at the end of the day. We also have to bear in mind that many areas, those of you who are familiar with Grand Cayman and in particular Georgetown from the 50s, the 40s, I don't know about the 40s, but from the 50s onwards, many of these areas where you see these grandiose buildings, these tall buildings with their beautiful parking lots and their manicured gardens and grounds are built on swamp, You look at the industrial park area, built on swamp. You look at where the government administration building is, where Pardon the Ground was, parts of that on swamp as well. Look at where CNB building is now, built on swamp. So you have a high water table and it's going to rain. So we have to continue to rely on the NRA, and they are being much more proactive now. When we know that the rainy season is coming, they are there cleaning out the drains. But bear in mind, water has to find its own level. It will find its own level, and we will continue to have flooding. There are persons who are living in areas, low-lying areas. I know of offers that have been made to move them, purchase the land, move them elsewhere. But you have to bear in mind, when people have lived in one area for 40, 50, 60 years, they don't want to move. That's their home. That's where they're at. And you can only do so much to mitigate against the flooding as well. We're going to take a commercial break now. After that commercial break, Mr. Kenneth Bryan is in the studio with us, and I will introduce him and then pass the mic over to him for the next 2 hours. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
Following the end of slavery, the relationships between the former masters and ex-apprentices varied across the island. Relations were peaceful in West Bay, where the former masters entered into bargains for work and property rentals with their former slaves. However, the same was not the case for Bodden Town, which historically housed the largest concentration of slaves. The former masters wanted to hire as much labor for the lowest wages in return for the former slaves' continued usage of the homes, whereas the former slaves wanted to keep their houses without obligation to work when they wished for the highest wages. The former slaves would eventually move to East End, clearing the unoccupied land for themselves.
Radio Cayman's Historical Facts Vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
It's more than what we do. It's who we are. We were your official bank of the quincentennial celebrations in 2003. We were your Bank of the Year 4 times. We were voted as the inaugural top employer in 2010. We were the inaugural Business of the Year awardee in 2017. Who are we? We are Cayman National, your local bank, proudly serving you for over 40 years. It's because of you that our journey continues.
Did you hear that Vant Motors has your sale going on now? And you get your choice on the money you'll save on your new car or truck?
My sale? My choice? Really?
Yeah, and they have lots of cars on sale, some up to $7,000 off.
Sounds pretty good.
It gets even better. You can choose to take the full discount, or you can get some or all of it as cash back.
Extra cash back would be great.
Exactly. And you can even use the savings to extend your warranty or service plan so you'll drive worry-free for years longer.
Another good idea.
If you want to upgrade with something like a new roof rack or backup camera, you can choose that too.
Wow, I get to choose?
Yeah, that's why it's your sale, your choice. Going on now at Vant Motors on Walkers Road, while stocks last.
A pharmacy is where you go for medicine and for the pharmacist's advice on how to take them. Here at CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, our pharmacists are trusted health professionals whose job is to help people receive the best results out of their medicine. They know exactly what's in your prescriptions and will be happy to answer any of your questions. You can be sure that our pharmacists will see that your medicine is at the right strength, in the right dose, and will check that you yourself know how to take them or use them properly. Come in today for a consultation with our pharmacist at CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Can you explain what a less than container load is for shipment and what your minimum charge is?
Sure. A less than container load, or LCL, is any overseas shipment that does not require the full space of a container. At Seaboard, we have great rates for small packages. Just let us know the dimensions of your package and we'll help you out from there.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All-Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
The Chamber of Commerce Business Excellence Awards are back. Saturday, October 27th at the Ritz-Carlton. Join in as we honor the contributions of the Cayman business community, celebrate the lifetime achievements of an outstanding business leader, and enjoy live musical entertainment. The Business Excellence Awards are proudly sponsored by the Ministry of Commerce, BritK, Caribbean Alliance, Coldwell Banker, Yellow Media Group, and more. Visit businessexcellenceawards.ky for more info. The Business Excellence Awards, Saturday, October 27th. For tickets, call 743-9129.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record, with your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm going to quickly introduce Mr. Kenneth Bryan, and then we have a caller online who wants to respond to some remarks that I made earlier. Mr. Bryan, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. I believe the legislature resumes today as well.
That's correct,
at 10 o'clock.
That's correct. Thank you so much, OC, and good morning to you and to your listeners. Yes, we are back at work again after having a pretty amazing week over there in the BRAC, and I want to say thank you to everybody over there in the BRAC who was so kind to us. But I know you have a call online, so take that and then we can get into the crux of things.
Certainly. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Look like we lost the caller. We lost the caller.
All right. Thanks again for having me. This morning I want to take the opportunity to inform the people of the country, as well as particularly my constituents, about a few things that have transpired in Parliament, as well as things that are expected to come up, and some timely things that are going on right now. So I just want to list off a few of those things I want to speak about, just so callers who are listening can have an idea what my topics will be today. Mm-hmm. Firstly, the hurricane season, which is very important. We are having a named storm now called Isaac, which is something I've been monitoring for the last week or so. And studies show that we should keep an eye on it. Our predictions show that we should keep an eye on it. So we're going to be talking about just hurricane preparedness and things that we can do within our community to look out for each other. Obviously, to give us some information about NRA, like you were speaking about before. Some questions on the Labour and Immigration and Customs merger. And I had some concerns about that, and I put some questions on the floor of the House, and I want to discuss those. Mm-hmm. Also, I put some questions to the Minister in charge of DCI in respect to concerns about the licensing approval process and how I see it possibly affecting our economy and local businesses, and as well, by extension, the minimum wage, interestingly enough. Also, I'm going to touch a little bit on the port, because, we had the vote on the referendum in the Parliament, and I think it's important that people understand what my position is, because though my vote was for the referendum and by the way of the motion for the House, my position is kind of unique, and I want to explain why my vote was the way it is, and what my position is on the port and its totality. So those are the things I want to talk about today. I think those are definitely enough to get through everything. So
okay,
no further ado.
Go right ahead and start.
All right, so let's talk about Hurricane Isaac, or actually now downgraded to, thankfully, to a tropical storm. Mm-hmm. We know, for those who should be paying attention, which is all of us, we have a number of storms outside in the Atlantic right now that are developing. Some not threatening to us. Florence, I believe, is the main one, which is going up to the east coast of the United States. So thankfully, we don't have to worry about that, because now considered to be a Category 3 or 4, I believe. And another one that's just coming off Africa, which I don't remember the name, but the projections are that will just go back up to the European side of things, up the coast of Africa. But there is this one named storm called Hurricane Isaac, or it was hurricane, went back down to a tropical storm. And the predictions are that it's going to go over the Lesser Antilles and then come into the Caribbean Sea area where we're located. And it's a pretty decent time away before it's expected to be within our location, which gives us enough time to prepare properly. Now, I don't want to scare anybody or frighten anybody as in to say we're going to be hit by a hurricane, because the forecast is too far away for us to know whether it's going to impact us. But once it gets into the Caribbean Sea area, we all know that we're going to get some sort of remnants of it or a direct hit. And I think it's better for us to be prepared for this rather than to be surprised by it. So I want to take this opportunity, particularly for those who live in Georgetown and Georgetown Central. I want to name off some shelters, because sometimes we forget to do our little checklist on things that we need to know when preparing through hurricane season. And the number one thing is, well, where are you going to stay? For those who may not feel comfortable in their own home for whatever reason, whether it's the property structure and strength that you're concerned about, or the low-lying area from a flooding perspective, some persons may consider shelters. And some of those shelters for people in Georgetown particularly, and my constituents, I want you to take note that there is 5 main government shelters. I think there is going to be some other ones other than this that are considered private, not really government run. But without no further ado, let me just go ahead and say which ones they are. We have the Cayman Further Education Center, formerly known as John Gray High School. So it's the assembly hall in there. That's one location. The John Gray High School Gymnasium, which is the big brand new one that everybody was speaking about for quite some time, which has really, really strong stats as to hurricane proof. To, I think, over Category 5, if I'm correct. You have the traditional Georgetown Primary School Assembly Hall, which I know they've done a little bit of changes within the hall to make it bigger and better for the kids at the school. So that will not be available until October 1st because they're doing some maneuvers inside the fixtures inside there. So hopefully we don't have to be concerned about any kind of hurricane period, but at the very least, not before October 1st, because that one isn't ready. And Georgetown Primary is probably the closest one to many of my constituents. They also have the University College of the Cayman Islands Hall. That's another shelter. And also the Red Cross Building is another shelter. And the Prospect Primary School. And this one is specifically to emergency medical care. Not just the average shelter, for more persons who need special attention, whether it be medical or persons who are elderly and immobile, who are wheelchair bound, possibly need oxygen and those kinds of things. Not fully hospitalized, but need special care. So that one is more specific to that need. Now,
question there: do they have a policy there, for instance, where they try to reserve that for people? So if you have persons who do not necessarily fall into that category, would they encourage them to go to another shelter first, so that area is reserved for those persons with special needs?
I think that is definitely the indication that is trying to be portrayed based on the information I've gathered from the hazard management, that the other ones that was mentioned, try to make that your priority if you're in good health and good standing, because that we want space reserved for persons who are truly in need in that location. There's very limited emergency medical centers across the island. So again, Red Cross Building, University College of the Cayman Islands Hall, the Georgetown Primary Assembly Hall, John Gray High School Gymnasium, Cayman Further Education Center. And this is only for the Georgetown area. I'm not aware of the other locations in the other districts, and I'm assuming your representatives will let you be aware. But just some things for us to think about in respect to what we need. Nobody wants a hurricane, but you never know what could happen. And just some basic things that you may want to think about in the event that you have to go to a shelter. A 3 to 4 day supply of food or drink that doesn't need cooking, because obviously there won't be provisions available there. So non-perishable goods, canned goods, and dried goods. A can opener, 3 to 4 day supply of water, and it's suggested that you have at least 1 gallon per person per day, because the average person is supposed to drink about that amount if you're drinking the appropriate amount of water. A first aid kit that includes prescription and medication for those of you who may be taking it. We know there's a lot of persons, unfortunately, in Cayman who are particularly on high blood pressure medication. You want to make sure, particularly in a stressful situation like that you have those available with you. Special need items for infants like formulas, bottles, and diapers, and etc. Make sure you have a supply of that. Special need items for elderly and disabled family members, whatever they may be, and they differ between each case. If you have small children, don't forget to bring at least one of their favorite toys and food, because this is probably one of their most scariest moments in their life, and they need to be distracted in some way. So bring some games, things that are not too overboard, like a checkered board game or something like so they can get through that.
Okay,
process.
we have to take a news break now. When we return, the conversation will continue with Mr. Kenneth Bryan, and he's issuing some reminders in relation to hurricane preparedness. So I want you to continue to tune in so that you can get this information that Mr. Bryan is relaying to you as well. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Price Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Price Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Price Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Access information. Your community. News and information. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. Researchers with the Department of Environment are out and about this week gathering research that they hope will help them to stop the spread of hybrid green iguanas and rock iguanas on Little Cayman. The DOE is out in full force at the Queen Elizabeth II Botanic Park on Friday, taking blood samples from the greenies as part of an ongoing research project conducted in partnership with Mississippi State University's Mark Welch Lab. According to the DOE's Facebook page, they're creating a library of genetic material so the department can estimate the number of, quote, original founders within the hybrid iguana population. The International Scuba Diving Hall of Fame announces its latest inductees. Wayne Hassan, Daniel Tibbetts, and Darrell Bud Walton Jr. will be inducted into the International Scuba Diving Hall of Fame for their contributions to the sport during a gala ceremony on September 14th. Radio Cayman's April Cummings has more.
Among his many accomplishments, Wayne Hassan founded the Aggressor Fleet in 1984 and captained the first Cayman Aggressor. His approach to the luxury liveaboard concept changed the way we explore the world. Today, there are 12 Aggressor-franchised liveaboards. While in the Cayman Islands, Mr. Hassan helped to install the first 112 permanent moorings and then took the concept and ideas to other countries. He has been a major voice and influence in the world of diving for over 40 years, accumulating more than 10,000 dives along the way. Most recently, he's put together a program of marine science, diving, and awareness called Oceans for Youth to inspire the next generation of divers. Dan Tibbetts was the son of the late Linton and Polly Tibbetts. In the early 90s, he began focusing his efforts on developing a dive resort in Little Cayman, completing the Little Cayman Beach Resort in 1993 and launching Reef Divers, a valet dive operation on both Little Cayman and Cayman Brac. Over the course of his career, he built the Conch Club condominiums and the Club condominiums in Little Cayman, Lakeshore Villas in Grand Cayman, and numerous other building projects on all three islands. Darrell Bud Walton Jr. fell in love with the water sports option available through Layman E. Scott High School's vocational program. He used the opportunity to become certified and then went on to get a job at Divi-Tiara Beach Resort, climbing to the qualification of Dive Master. BJ, as he is affectionately known, is the only remaining true Caymanian, Bracker to be more specific, serving at any rank in the Sister Islands dive industry. He is currently employed by Reef Divers. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
And the Rotary Club of Grand Cayman Sunrise gives bags of confidence to some 24 students just in time for the new academic year. The Service Club donated colorful backpacks with school supplies for distribution by the Department of Children and Family Services to deserving students. Multi-agent safeguarding hub MASH social work manager Tiffany Miles said they're extremely grateful for this act of kindness, and they're certain that the children who receive these essential school supplies will be thankful and put them to good use. In regional news, Deputy Mayor of Kingston, Jamaica, Winston Ennis, is urging residents of Kingston and St. Andrew to stop protecting criminals. He said in a monthly meeting, quote, "The time has come when we make sure that the criminals of the society know that they are on the run," referencing the brutal killing of 14-year-old Yatanya Francis in the St. Andrew community of Arnett Gardens on August 23rd. The deputy mayor said those who have not come forward to tell the police what they know are just as culpable for her death. He said, quote, "If you have seen or heard anything and you've done nothing about it, you are guilty. You are guilty of the offense." The deputy mayor said he strongly believes that someone witnessed what happened. The deputy mayor charged that all must be done to protect the nation's children. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, who will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Gareth Barlow. In an unprecedented move, the European Parliament has voted in favour of disciplinary proceedings against Hungary for flouting European values and the rule of law. It follows a report denouncing Hungary for corruption, violating the rights of minorities and asylum seekers, and restricting the independence of civil society and academic institutions. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel has warned that illegal migration poses a greater threat to the European unity than the Eurozone crisis. Mrs. Merkel said the issue would dominate next year's European parliamentary elections. UN investigators say Syrian government forces have used the banned chemical weapon chlorine in 3 attacks this year that constitute war crimes. The Commission of Inquiry on Syria said the attacks targeted eastern Ghouta and the mainly rebel-held province of Idlib. BBC News.
Access. Information. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Open a world of knowledge and education with Flow. Bundle now and get smart back-to-school savings on Cayman's biggest network. Get 50% off HD quality Flow Evo TV and super-fast broadband bundles now from $49.50 a month. And you could win one of 4 weekly laptop prizes from Flow and Office Supply. Enjoy TV on your mobile with Flow to go and bring the classroom home with Flow Study. Do the smart thing and bundle smarter for back-to-school with Flow. Visit discoverflow.ky for details. Terms and conditions apply.
Always separate debris from household garbage after a hurricane hits. Debris includes roofing materials, downed tree branches, and metals. All items of debris must be placed in separate piles to the front of the property or at a side that is easily accessible to collection trucks. Debris must be placed in a location that will not cause obstruction to roadways or come in contact with electrical lines. For more post-hurricane waste management tips, visit the DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
And we'd like to remind Radio Cayman listeners, don't forget to register for the 12th annual Grand Cayman Breeze Fusion 5K Walk Run. Of course, you're going to help us in raising funds for the NCVO and the John Gray High School Musical Department. Registration is only $50 for adults if you register by September 30th. The walk run will take place on Saturday, November the 3rd at the Smith Backleer. But of course, you must be registered by September 30th to take advantage of the lower early fee. Visit CaymanActive.com to register today or stop by our studios here at Radio Cayman on Elgin Avenue.
In financial news, world markets were mixed today as investors focused on trade tensions, with China delaying licenses to American businesses ahead of expected tariffs from Washington. The price of oil continued to rise on concerns that Hurricane Florence could disrupt supplies. Keeping score in Europe, France's CAC 40 gained 0.5% to 5,309, while Britain's FTSE 100 was down 0.2% at 7,262. Germany's DAX added 0.2% to 11,988. Wall Street was poised to open slightly higher, with Dow and S&P 500 futures both rising 0.1%. Looking at Asia's day, Japan's benchmark Nikkei 225 lost 0.3% to 22,604, and the Kospi in South Korea was almost flat at 2,282. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was 0.3% lower at 26,345. The Shanghai Composite Index fell 0.3% to 2,656. In energy, benchmark U.S. crude added 67 cents to $69.92 a barrel after surging past $70 in the Asia session. The contract gained 2.5% to $69.25 per barrel in New York. The approach of Hurricane Florence and its potential to disrupt oil supply on the East Coast spurred gains. Brent crude used to price international oils rose 15 cents to $79.21 a barrel. It jumped 2.2% to $79.06 a barrel in London on Tuesday. And in currency, the dollar fell to 111.48 yen from 111.59. The euro was down 1.1591 from 1.1605.
this weekend.
Cayman Up Close, a weekly special feature from Radio Cayman News.
I'm Shanda Gallego.
Shanda Gallego goes behind the scenes with Cayman's newsmakers, artists, and emerging talent to get their unique and personal experience, their real story.
This week, we turn the spotlight.
Sundays at noon, 6:10 p.m. and 10:10 p.m. and always online at radiocayman.gov.ky. Tune in for Cayman Up Close.
Cayman Up Close, brought to you by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands for over 40 years.
This is Caitlin Tyson, your Miss Cayman Islands Universe. Dementia caregivers are invited to an interactive training course on how to properly care for someone living with dementia. The training will be held on Saturday, the 22nd of September, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the Hibiscus Conference Room at the HSA. Please get involved, Cayman.
Your weather update after 8 is brought to you by Brand Source Home Gallery, creating elegant bathrooms with European-style fixtures and fittings.
Good morning. As we take a look at the weather, temperatures outside currently 82 degrees. Relative humidity is at 90%. Winds are coming in from the east at 4 knots. Barometric pressure is at 29.89 inches and rising. Overnight low last night was 78 degrees. Synopsis indicates light to moderate winds and slight seas are expected over the next 24 hours in association with a weak pressure gradient across the northwest Caribbean. Radar images show isolated showers around the Cayman area moving towards the west. The National Hurricane Center is issuing advisories on Hurricane Florence, Hurricane Helene, and Hurricane Isaac. These hurricanes pose no threat to the Cayman Islands at this time. Forecast for today, partly cloudy skies, 30% chances of showers and possible thunder. Temperatures will rise to the lower 90s. Winds will be east to southeast, 5 to 10 knots. The seas will be smooth with wave heights of less than 2 feet. Take a look at tonight, partly cloudy skies with 20% chances of showers and some possible thunder. Temperatures will fall to the upper 70s. Winds will be southeast, 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be slight with wave heights of less than 2 feet as well. High tide takes place today at 11:29 a.m. and low tide at 5:26, and high tide again at 11:17. Sunset it takes place at 6:29, and sunrise bright and early tomorrow at 6:13 a.m. Outlook through Friday is for similar weather conditions. The latest weather update has been brought to you by Brand Source Home Gallery.
Your weather update after 8 is brought to you by Brand Source Home Gallery, creating elegant bathrooms with European-style fixtures and fittings.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's new kitchen and bath center.
And good morning to our drivers out on the road. If you happen to be coming in from the east, traffic is moving quite slow on the east-west arterial as you cross Lantern Point in the Prospect area. A little further up, traffic clears up as you head towards the Kings Roundabout. Moderate flow of traffic on Oak Road as well as Linford Pearson Highway. Take a look at our traffic cameras at C and B. We have clear flowing traffic in all directions. Also, if you're in Edward Street and Shedden Road area in town, clear flowing traffic as well. And a moderate flow of traffic as you come around the roundabout by Butterfield, heading in all directions onto Godfrey Nixon Way as well as the Industrial Park. Busy but flowing traffic coming out through the west as well. Keep it locked right here. Radio Cayman for your latest updates.
The
In local sports, the Fidelity Fun Run Series 2 of 3 takes place this Saturday at 7:30 a.m. on Walker's Road opposite the former John Gray High School. The route is a 2-mile loop starting at Walker's Road and then on to South Church Street before finishing on Denham-Thompson Way. The cost is free if you're under 15. It's $25 for the whole series for adults and $10 per single race. The divisions include male and female under 12, 12 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 59, and 60 plus. There's also divisions for pram pushing and pets. Awards will be presented to the top 3 male and top 3 female point scorers overall in the series, and also to the top 3 male and female scorers in each age group. Pram and pet division awards are not based on gender. The final race is September 22nd. Log on to CaymanActive.com to register. And in international sports, Gennady Golovkin says Saturday's rematch with Sal Canelo Alvarez is 100% the biggest fight of his career. The middleweight pair's first fight in September 2017 was controversially scored a draw, with Golovkin landing more punches and considered the stronger fighter by many pundits. A May rematch was postponed after 28-year-old Alvarez failed 2 drug tests. The Mexican athlete blamed his positive test for clenbuterol, an asthma medication that can also help build muscle and burn fat, on eating contaminated meat. The drug is sometimes illegally mixed into livestock feed to make meat leaner.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning, and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning MLA, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. Before we went to the news break, he was given some information in relation to shelters and other preparatory measures that need to be taken in the event of a hurricane. Mr. Bryan.
Thank you, OC. As you were saying before we went to the break, I was just updating everybody on things you would want to need, and I thank those who've continued to stay with us here on the radio. And I was explaining some of the items, food, supplies for your family, kids, and elderly. And some of the other very important elements if you're going to a shelter is, bedding, pillows, sheets, and spare change of clothes, battery-powered radio, flashlights, extra batteries, keys for your home, credit cards, and cash particularly because and sometimes in the event that the power is out, you can't receive cash or you need, if things get bad, you would want to have some level of cash to get you through a few days. And most importantly, your family documents, passports, marriage certificates, birth certificates, stuff like that, in the event that you have to leave the island. Don't forget, if you can also do is get a car charger if you can, because we remember that after Ivan, most of the things that it was difficult to find is power, and cars are the only thing that were really giving any energy other than generators, and most people don't have generators. But if you do have one, that'd be great to be able to have that in a safe place, so in the event of a major hurricane afterwards, we can use it. Some things that you should be doing also before a hurricane comes around, just for preparedness purposes, is check around your surroundings and see if there's any trees that maybe need to be cut back before a hurricane comes. It could be something that saves your home or even your neighbor's home. And speaking about neighbors, it's also important that you be your brother's keeper and check your surroundings in respect to persons who may need assistance. You may be in a position to be healthy and able-bodied, but your neighbors may not. It'd be good to just take a check and make sure everybody's okay, to see if they have their plans set up as to where they're going to go and what they're going to do. Also, consider what are you going to do with your home in the event that you go to a shelter. Sometimes some people already have window shutters available for their home. Some people don't, and sometimes we all should be able to assist each other with, the usual process, which is to board up your homes with plywood for those who don't have the appropriate window shutters. and some elderly or disabled or even females, single mothers may need some assistance with that. So I want us men particularly to do our part to look around our community and see what we can do to help out. Also, I want to speak about the some of the flooding perspectives. And I know you talked about that earlier, but you were 100% right by saying that much of the developed areas in Cayman is on what it was formerly known to be as swamped areas, and it was filled in. And I think most of us may know by now that Cayman is a very flat jurisdiction, and therefore it's difficult for the water flow, unlike some other Caribbean islands where it's mountainous and the water can flow out to the sea. And there's only so much the NRA can do, because many houses have been built, unfortunately, in low-lying areas, and some people will think that, okay, boy, there should be more drains. I've had much extensive conversations with the NRA officials, and I know that they are working very, very hard in every capacity that they can to be as vigilant in respect to these drains, but there is only limited amount of equipment that they do have and limited amount of manpower. And I want to give kudos to them, because they work very, very hard and they try their best. And many times, even in the late nights when the rain is pounding down and everybody's inside safe, they're out there trying to get those drains cleared. But there's only so much you can do when you have major downpour of rain like what we've had a few days ago. Exactly. But for those of you who may be in areas that are prone to flooding, I want you to, if you have the opportunity at this particular point, to remember this number in the event that you would like your drains to be blown out or think that it's some sort of blockage why the water won't go away. And that number is 525-1251. So that's 525-1251. That's an emergency contact number for a representative of the National Roads Authority, that if there's a drain close by that you think may be clogged, you can call that number. I want to also give some emergency contact numbers for other things in the event that people want more information, particularly about hurricane preparedness. And the first one I would definitely recommend in preparation purposes would be obviously the Hazard Management Emergency Operations Center. That is 949-6555. I think it's in, that number is only during activation of the National Emergency Operations Center. So if in fact the hurricane is happening and something transpires where you're stuck at home or you decide to stay home and something went wrong, or you're on your way there and thing goes awry, that's the number that you can call, 949-6555, or your regular 911 emergency number. That way, if something is going wrong, they can send out our emergency crews like fire, police, a hospital, or anybody else that will be willing to assist in those circumstances. So I think I've covered a number of things in respect to preparation, but just remember, being proactive is probably the most important thing. And if you have any other questions as things that you need to do or you need to know, don't be afraid to call Hazard Management. They have a list of things, phone numbers, preparation, things you should have, things you should do to help you with that process. I, as a representative for Georgetown Central, unfortunately I'm in Parliament today and have a few things lined up for tomorrow and Friday, but I am trying to meet with my committee and probably tomorrow night, because I'll be at a function tomorrow during the day to discuss what our plans are to potentially assist individuals with boarding up of homes, because unfortunately there's a lot of lower income individuals in my constituency. They need that assistance. So if there's anybody out there who's willing to assist, our help in servicing individuals in the event that we have a hurricane and would like to give a helping hand, don't be afraid to call my office and give me your name so I can reach out to you when it's time to assist individuals, because I'm almost certain that if there is a immediate threat, that I will be out in my community trying to get those persons safe to shelters and their homes boarded up. So my office number is 936-4040. Again, 936-4040. If you would love to assist in that process. We have to look out for each other. And at this particular point, my responsibility is to the whole country, but that in particular of Georgetown Central.
Okay, we have one listener who has written in and said, good morning, Mr. Connor, addressing this to Mr. Bryan. Thanks for coming on the show and giving us some much needed information. However, what the people need is hope. Every year and every 4 years is the same old conversation with no substance. People's homes are still flooding. However, the question I want to pose is, where the people of Bordentown should go if we have the 10-foot seas sweep across town again? The Civic Center has 12-foot seas filling up the yard and all through the police station and health clinic. Shall we close the primary school for another 3 months to shelter, or should we run to the half-finished Hurricane Church shelter across from the Rankin restaurant? In the same breath, would you kindly ask this government, this premier, who was the last government and now government, why are they holding foot to fire in not releasing funds to finish this Hurricane Church shelter? I will listen if it is brought up in the House. Thank you. So, and I know earlier you did point out that as far as the shelters were concerned, you were only speaking in relation to Georgetown.
Yes.
Whether or not you're familiar with the other districts or this particular one.
I do have some other information, though I am only one person, and though I want to help the whole country, with limited resources and limited brain capacity, I try my best to focus in on the area that I'm responsible for. But in the event that anybody has any concerns, they want me to look into the various areas in their community, I am happy to do so. I'm a representative of everybody in this country. And again, my office number is 936-4040. Call me. If there's questions you have in your area, I'll find the information and get it to you, because I don't have it with me, unfortunately. I was focusing on Georgetown. But in respect to the person who texted in about the church, I have some really good news that came up in Parliament while we were in the BRAC, that monies are being allocated for the completion, if my memory serves me well, and I stand to be corrected, of that same church shelter that they were concerned about. And I want to give kudos to Alva Saku for applying the necessary pressures and bringing it up constantly behind the scenes to have it addressed. And also kudos to the Minister for Bordentown, Mr. Dwayne Seymour, who I know was instrumental as well, and Bordentown East to have those monies allocated. Now, I can't confirm exactly how much and if it is to complete the whole process, but my memory serves me that the discussion was in a statement by the Honourable Minister, Mr. Seymour, that they're in the process now of allocating funding to have that completed, because it was intended to be not only a church but also a major shelter, and it's been too long now and it hasn't been completed. So I want to give kudos to Alva Saku.
Is there an indication there that the money is going to be given, or whether or not there's going to be monitoring as well, or any assistance given in terms of construction management advice in relation to ensure completion? Because if it is going to be a shelter as well, obviously it won't be ready for this hurricane this hurricane season, but in the future to ensure that there's a timely completion of the project.
Also, it would be wrong for me to address those questions because I don't have the information before me. I would have to go back and read the statement brought by the minister to confirm, and it was a general announcement. They didn't go into very much more details. But if you want to find out more, you can always go to the GIS website on YouTube, where you can hear the discussions and deliberations yourself as to exactly what was said, and also reach out to your representatives of Bordentown. I know Alva is well in tune with what's happening with the church, as well as the Honorable Minister Dwayne Seymour, to find out more information. But I'm almost certain, and I would definitely question it, to make sure that throughout the process, it's not a matter of simply donating the money without no watching of how the money is spent and ensuring that the process is done correctly and completed at a reasonable time.
Okay, we're going to go to a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned for the record with Mr. Kenneth Bryan. We'll be back shortly.
Are you feeling sick but don't feel ill enough to go to the doctor? Ask your pharmacist for advice. Here at West Bay Pharmacy, our pharmacists have been trained to offer helpful, easy-to-understand advice on the treatment of everyday minor ailments for yourself and all the family. Anything from headaches, cough, and sore throat to cold sores, our pharmacists will know when medical help is needed and will not hesitate to refer you to your doctor if your symptoms demand it. Like doctors, our pharmacists have a professional code, which means all personal information you give them will be treated in the strictest confidence. Visit us today at West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore,
Did you hear that Vant Motors has your sale going on now? And you get your choice on the money you'll save on your new car or truck?
My sale? My choice? Really?
Yeah! And they have lots of cars on sale. Some up to $7,000 off.
Sounds pretty good.
It gets even better. You can choose to take the full discount, or you can get some or all of it as cash back.
Extra cash back would be great.
Exactly. And you can even use the savings to extend your warranty or service plan so you'll drive worry-free for years longer.
Another good idea.
If you want to upgrade with something like a new roof rack or backup camera, you can choose that too.
Wow, I get to choose?
Yeah, that's why it's your sale, your choice. Going on now at Vant Motors on Walkers Road, while stocks last.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record, with your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, MLA, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. Mr. Bryan.
Thank you so much, OC, again. So we covered the NRA with the flooding elements, and we covered the information in respect to preparation for the hurricane season. And again, I want to warn everybody to please pay close attention to the developed storm now called Isaac, or have been called Isaac for quite some time. It was a hurricane. It's out on the east side of the Lesser Antilles, and it's projected to be within our area late Friday. So I don't think we're going to get much more information probably until tomorrow evening on the projections. The projections cone hasn't reached Jamaica yet. And once we know what the projections closer to Jamaica is, then we have a really good idea of whether it's coming our direction or not. But it's something to pay close attention to. I think it's important. Today is that day that you start to check your food, your supplies, and all the rest of it, and what you're going to do in respect to your plan for hurricanes. I want to move now on to the last session of the House in Cayman, but before I address some of the things that were brought up, I want to say thank you so much to the Cayman community, the district administrator, district, what is he called again? The district
commissioner.
Commissioner, that's right, correct. And his team over there in the BRAC, they worked so hard in making sure that we had a true Cayman BRAC love, and they treated all the MLAs and everybody else with such good professional courtesy and service. So thank them for that. But while we were over there, a number of things that I posed questions to on the floor of the House, I think it's important that I speak about them. And some of those were questions to the deputy governor, the acting deputy governor, the lovely Miss Macfield-Nixon, Gloria Macfield-Nixon, who I must say, I give kudos to her every day. She's such an amazing person. She works really hard. Hopefully one day I can see her as the deputy governor. I think she's qualified and able and strong-minded and capable of doing the job. But that's just my own personal input there. But moving on to the merger of three major departments that we're well aware of, that one being Immigration and Labor and Immigration and Customs. One of my questions that was posed was the concerns of that merger and whether or not there would be any job losses within that process, because whenever you're merging two departments, it's suspected, or a person can draw the conclusion that you may have more employees than necessary because you're merging together, and jobs may be duplicated or potentially made redundant. So it brought a question of concern for me, because I don't want any Caymanian losing a job. That's their livelihood and how they survive. And the answer in a roundabout way was they're going to do, there's no, let me try to quote correctly now, even though I'm quoting from memory, that there is no projected job losses. And I think that leaves a window a bit open for me, and I wasn't quite happy with that answer. I wanted a more concrete answer to say there's a guarantee of no losses. Because no Caymanian that works now, if it's a non-Caymanian, I in all due respect to those who are here on contract or what have you, but if you lose a job, it's totally different than it is for a Caymanian. So if somebody has to go, it's going to have to be you. My job is to protect Caymanians, and that's any kind of Caymanian, whether you're paper, birth, or what have you. You're a Caymanian to me. Now, though I did not get the certainty that I wanted, obviously I think the answer gives them a little bit of wiggle room in the event they see something of the sort that they are forced to let people go or what have you. But they did follow up by saying they're doing everything within the power to, for those who, if in fact, say for instance, just for example's sake, so the listeners can understand, if you took two departments and each department had 50 employees and you're making another one and you say, well, we only actually need 85 employees to now run this new department, that means 15 people are left without actually a placement. What will we do with those 15 people? And that's my concern, because I believe there will be situations where you have too many employees. You don't want to just make one with 100 employees in a department that don't necessarily need it. So the answer was they'll do everything in their power to either find different placements for them within different departments. Also, there's potential chances of buyout opportunities if they want to move on to the private sector.
Or early retirement.
Or potentially early retirement. All of those options are available, but they insisted, the deputy governor insisted that they're doing everything they possibly can to make sure that no Caymanian is disadvantaged at this merger. And the answer was quite similar to that of the merger of customs and immigration as well.
That's the one that I'm curious about, and where I can possibly see some consolidation is at the airport operation for arriving and departing passengers. Whether you still end up with the situation where you report to an immigration officer first and then a customs officer afterwards. Or
kind of the same thing.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like what they do in other jurisdictions.
Exactly.
I suspect they will do that, and I want to also take this opportunity to give kudos to the awesome person who was selected to run up that new department, the Honorable Charles Clifford, a man who I look up to tremendously and I believe is well competent and will do a good job with that. He don't get caught up in the politics of things and just do the job that needs to be done. I'm proud of him, and I think his family should be proud of him too. And I'm looking forward to what he's going to do with that department. So basically, for those who may be within these various different departments, immigration, labor, and customs, I know some of you have expressed fear and worry and concern about the process and what's going to happen in those merger, whether there'll be job losses. I've done my best in respect to putting those questions to the Deputy Governor. If you want to hear exactly what was said, again, I encourage persons to go to the YouTube website for GIS. You'll hear where I put the questions to them and what exactly was said in response to give you a level of comfort. Now, they didn't give the ultimate comfort words, which was, I can guarantee there will be no job losses, which is what I wanted. But they did give some good reassurances that there's going to be everything done possible to make sure that persons find new placement if they haven't found a placement or a new role within the new structure of those mergers. So though it's not 100%, I feel quite comfortable with what Ms. Gloria McField said, up to at least 95%. Moving on to the other question that I put in respect to the Minister Joey Hugh. I posed a question about how does DCI determine how many licenses that they offer in any one license category. Now, I think it's important that I put the background as to why I asked this question to the Honourable Minister. Through my efforts to have research done about the minimum wage, where many people were asking the question about minimum wage, I decided to try to speak to some of the business owners in our community about their concerns about minimum wage, because we know persons who are on the employee are never usually the ones who are concerned about the wage increase. It's usually the employer. So though I had a good feedback of the employees, I spoke to some business owners, and many business owners, particularly small business owners, agree that $6 an hour is not sufficient for Caymanians to survive in this country, or anybody for that fact. But one of the concerns were the difficulty to survive in the local market with the high expenses to operate as a business in the country. Therefore, my focus and investigation started to go into, okay, if we have business owners who morally accept that $6 an hour is too little for someone to survive on, how do we help these business owners to be able to make enough to be able to pay people more? Mm-hmm. And there's only two ways for us to do that. One is that we reduce the cost of doing business, and I'm not in control of that because the government is the main driver as to those costs, as well as the private industry, because rent, light, water, and all those other things are also expenses. But it seems that the government's position is they can't reduce the cost of living, and cost of living is also associated with cost of doing business. So the other factor is, if you can't reduce those costs, you have to increase the income. So the more income that they have, as a result, they can ultimately pay their employees more. And some of the factors that also came up in my research and discussions with business persons is the notion that I don't think that the government is taking good consideration to how they give out the business license in the market. And there's a notion that they're flooding the market in certain industries, which is making it difficult for anybody to win. And it goes back to the concept of, and just for basic purposes, and this can go across to any business, how many car washes can you possibly have in any one jurisdiction before everybody is not succeeding? And if you do that in the reverse, if there was only one car wash in this country, one would assume that that person would make a lot of money. So I posed the question to him from a perspective of not just to control the market, but to say, is there some considerations or some predictions based on our population of people here in the Cayman Islands? How many restaurants can this country handle? How many gas stations can this country handle? If we had 1,000 gas stations in the Cayman Islands, can any one of them actually truly profit? With the only 62,000 people, if I remember the numbers were.
But what about the responsibility of persons who are considering going into businesses, they have to do their feasibility studies to see whether or not a particular business is going to be viable or not. So part of the responsibility has to be on them. So the choice is out there for them to make in terms of, do I want to go into the service station business? Do I want to go into hairdressing? Do I want to go into something else? And they look at it and they see where it is possible that I can make a profit, and where it is quite feasible that I'm likely to make something because the competition is not as great as in other areas.
Yeah. And you're 100% correct. And that's the free market concept, right? And free market concept also does a number of positive things, which is drive down the prices where the consumers themselves benefit, because the more people in the business, the more they compete to say, okay, I'm going to make it cheaper than this business or that business. Now, but the problem for that, for me, is if we said that we must agree that too many of one business is not good for the market, but we believe in the free market concept. Where my concern and why I brought up the question is that the government seems to be cherry picking how they handle these types of industries. And I give you an example. We know that there was a moratorium for a very long time on liquor license, and that they weren't giving any out for quite some time. Now, this is not the best example because it's not something that many people support in respect to liquor and alcohol consumption, because it's not good for our lives. But it's just an example of a business. Now, if we're going to be in the free market theory, one would say, well, why are you putting restrictions on the amount of licenses are going to be given out for that? And it's the same as another example, which is the taxi bus operator license. Now, it is not a business license because technically I must say the minister was correct in saying, well, that is not his responsibility. He deals with DCI. He approves, or DCI approves, the license to operate, but another industry gives you a license to get that category of business. But they're one and the same. If you can't get a license to be a taxi driver from the transport department, regardless if you have the business license or not, you still can't do it. So it's another industry that is controlled. So it's either we have a free market or we have a controlled market. And I think the government is being unfair by saying in one tone that we can't control the market, and any Caymanian who wants a business license should have one. But when you get to the industry of transport, they say the market can only handle this amount. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's either one or the other.
Okay, we have to take a commercial break, folks. Please stay tuned. Don't change that dial. For the record, with Mr. Kenneth Bryan, we'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Pharmacy Group provides you with more than just prescriptions. We strive to make your health our concern. We recognize the complexities of pharmaceuticals and the need to personalize your care. That is why we offer personalized one-on-one counseling. Our pharmacists are here to assist you with questions you may have about your health and the medications you've been prescribed. With West Bay Pharmacy and CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, the Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. We care about your health.
Not all insurance is created equal, but who has the time to shop around? Take the guesswork out of your insurance coverage with Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Let us match you with the best coverage to suit your needs at a price to suit your wallet. Plus, get superior customer service from dedicated claims professionals to ensure speedy claims processing. Get your insurance through Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
At Kirk's Home Center, we can make your life much better. We got it all together. We got a great deal in store for you.
This September at Kirk Home Center, save on Pratt & Lambert Pro Hide Gold Interior Flat Latex Paint. 5 gallons for $99.99. And touch-up details with a 3-pack Pro Max paintbrush set for $10.99. Enjoy homemade dinners on a 30-piece white porcelain dinnerware set from Gibson for $31.09. Organize, store away, and declutter with storage totes starting at $12.79.
Kirk's Home Center, we got a great deal in store for you.
Initiating system.
For information that matter, for the record, with Orrett Connor, continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, MLA, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. Mr. Bryan.
Thank you again, OC. I think it's important that I clarify something that I said earlier. A lovely person texted in about concerns of that shelter in the Bontown district, and I just realized I did have the information within my briefcase here. So I think it's important that I clarify exactly what was said in the Honorable House. A question came to the Minister on behalf of the Deputy Opposition Leader, Alva Suku, who's elected in the constituency of Newlands. And the question read as, can the Honourable Minister state what progress has been made with making arrangements to complete the Church of God building in Bontown as a hurricane shelter for the district? And just so I don't misquote what was said, I think I actually may have said that there was funds allocated. I don't know where I got that information from, but I think it was in the supplementary questions, and I stand to be corrected on that. But the official answer by paperwork here that I have, that I know was said, because it had to be read, was, Mr. Speaker, government has reviewed and granted approval to complete the outstanding works needed to complete the Church of God building as a hurricane shelter. At present, the Public Works Department and Hazard Management Cayman Islands working to produce a draft agreement. This document will outline the roles and responsibility of Hazard Management Cayman Islands on behalf of the Cayman of the government and Bontown Church of God in the use of the facility. Mm-hmm. Currently, the Public Works Department is preparing the drawing package to be used in the tender process to select a suitable contractor for the project. Now, you can tell that obviously government is going to be involved in much of that, and I'm assuming that's where the supplementary questions in my memory comes from about helping with further funding to get it completed. So at least we know, based on that answer, that they're in the process of having it completed. One other question that I wanted to make some clarity on was a question or a statement, rather, by the Honourable Minister for Home Affairs, the Honourable Tara Rivers. She gave some updates on Home Affairs and reducing crime and the like. And again, I encourage persons to go to the YouTube channel to hear exactly the proceedings or listen to your local radio station, Radio Cayman, when they offer it in the evenings. But one of the concerns I didn't get an answer to was the recent graduate of the newest 22 recruits was the largest recruitment class ever to join the ranks at the Her Majesty's Prison. We remember that in the papers there was this large, beautiful picture of all of these new recruits, and I want to say congratulations to them. But my concern is that I can't get an answer to those 22 recruits, how many of them were Caymanian? There are many young Caymanians who are leaving school or Caymanians who have been in other industries who would love to take the opportunity to take those jobs that are as good paying job. Now it's a difficult job because it's at the prison. But I think we as a country have to do more in mandating that departments such as anything to do with enforcement to be Caymanian focused to the very best that we can. And I'm concerned that the answer wasn't available right away. The minister has said she agreed to have it available for me at another date, and I want to see if I can get that update today when I go to Parliament. But we cannot have two great posts with great benefits and insurance and plans and pensions and good salary when we have unemployed Caymanians. I would really like to know how many of those 22 were Caymanian and why, if not, they're not all Caymanian. I really am a driver for making sure that all of these various departments are fully Caymanian. Do we know whether or not the prison service has initiated a drive to recruit Caymanians like the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service has attempted to do? Honestly, OC, I don't know because you see, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service has been under the spotlight for quite some time, and more people focus on that. But just like the police, in the event of a national emergency, prison officers would be called on as backup arms to protect this country. And quite like customs and immigration enforcement and police and the prison, when you see a parade, there's a reason why the prison officers are in that parade, in the national parade, because they're considered for lack of better terminology, the army of the Queen. And these are the departments that would be called on to protect the country. And if there's persons who are responsible for the protection of our state, in my view, I would like to have them as Caymanian as much as possible. And I know there's a difficulty by way of if Caymanians are not applying for the job, then you can't. You have to find somebody. So that's the difficult part. But I agree with you. I think I would like to see more efforts, just like how the police department is almost forced to do so by public pressure. That happens at the prison services as well. One other thing that perturbed me, and I'm hoping that those who are listening are connected in some way to the marches. And if anytime we have national marches, I would like to see, because in Cayman Brac, we had a few times where officers were there for the march for ceremonial purposes. And I think it doesn't give a good perception of our mix of culture in the Cayman Islands, where you see predominantly one group of individuals that is perceived to be maybe only Caribbean descent, or I've never seen a white... I want to be careful how I say this. I don't want to come off too negative. But say, for instance, an English police officer who's in the force out there in the hot sun. Why is it always darker colored skin officers out doing the marches? Like I was in Cayman Brac, and we had the lightest colored skin person was one now Caymanian, former Filipino individual. Everybody else was of darker descent, and it's primarily from the Caribbean region, either who are Caymanian or became Caymanian in short order, or potentially are on government contract. And I think it bodes bad for me. It almost feels as if to say those who were in the service, the ones who could handle the sun is the black people. That's what I felt in my stomach. And
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, is it determined by rank who's out there parading? Because we know who's in charge of, who's in command of the parade group. But do they use mainly constables as opposed to others? And then you notice that in the higher echelons of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, those are the people that they bring from abroad on contract. They're either retired or almost to be retired detectives and sergeants and whatever, and they bring them over here and put them in the management positions in the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. And the recruitment at the lower level of constable is done normally regionally or locally as well. So they're not necessarily recruiting British constables, which they used to do in the past, but I'm not sure whether or not the emphasis is on constables from the UK as opposed to more seasoned police officers from the UK.
Well, OC, you just said a whole lot just now. And something that the people who are listening and the people in society have to consider. Because it gives you a bit of a creation of higher ranks to be of one grouping and the lower ranks to be of one grouping. And I don't think that that's a good perception to give. Now, I don't want to undermine the police department in any way or any other department. But these are factors that we have to discuss and analyze and have dialogue about because they matter. If I see it, that means somebody else is seeing it and somebody else is feeling something as a result of the perception of it. And they have ripple effects in your economy. So this is not a negative analysis, but we have to pay attention to these things, analyze them. What are the effects in our society with them? And you know, one thing that the Premier and I do agree on is that we're a developing state and we're a mixed culture. And I think it's one of the things that's going to be a positive element for us for the growth of our country. It's quite like the United States. The United States is a very great nation, but it's built upon the merger of so many different types of groupings together and having the greatest minds together to find success. And I foresee that that's what Cayman is going to be in the future, where we have so many different groupings. But you can't have it too predominantly one. If there's only going to be any dominance, it has to be by what we call traditional Caymanian. Otherwise, I think it should have a good balance. If we're going to have a march and there's going to be a band, I want to see some lighter color skin out there too, taking some of the hot sun, not only darker colored people. I think it just gives a negative perception. I felt a bit disgusted by it. It's almost like, I don't know if it was intended, but I didn't feel comfortable with it. So I just want to highlight that. There was another question that came up that I wanted to get to, but I don't want to leave dead air on the. Help me out in
what we can do now is we can go to our headline news at this point in time if the control room is ready, and when we return, the conversation will continue with MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Over the past several weeks, police have received complaints from the community about excessive noise and nuisance being caused by possible unlicensed events, particularly in the Georgetown, Rockhole, and Washington Boulevard neighborhoods. In response, officers from the Community Policing Department have joined with enforcement officers from the Department of Commerce and Investment to conduct a series of proactive patrols in Georgetown. The European Parliament has voted to pursue unprecedented disciplinary action against Hungary over alleged breaches of the EU's core values. The Prime Minister's government has been accused of attacks on media, minorities, and the rule of law, charges which he denies. MEPs backed the vote by 448 to 197, giving it the two-thirds required for proceedings to go ahead. And the two suspects in the poisoning of ex-Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter are civilians, not criminals, according to Russian President Vladimir Putin. The UK government has named them and said they were from Russia's military intelligence service. Mr. Putin said his government had found the pair, and he hoped they would appear soon and tell their story. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record. With Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It's my pleasure to have in the studio with me MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan. We're on the last half hour of the show now. If you have any questions, certainly please call in. Our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. You can also email us, which several of you have done, at for the record at candw.ky, and you can also contact us on WhatsApp 925-3261, which several of you have done as well. And then, of course, you can follow us on YouTube by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. One of our listeners says, Mr. Bryan, I'm saying that the white police officers think that they are too big for their britches, and the commissioner couldn't care one hoot. That is my thought as a Caymanian listener.
So I think that supports my concept that other people feel of a funny way when they see it as well. OC, before we went to the break, there's two more questions I wanted to address that came up in the Parliament.
Sure.
Before I take the last 20 minutes to talk about the port, if we don't have any calls. And that is the question that I put to the Honourable Premier, who is also the Minister for Labour. And the question I put to him is, can the Honourable Minister say when does he intend to bring the new Labour bill to the Legislative Assembly? And his answer was, in late 2015, a comprehensive review commenced with the goal of modernizing the Labour Law 2011 revision. As a result of that process, the Labour Relations Bill was drafted. Through an initial public consultation feedback, and the draft bill was received from a cross-section of stakeholders, which was subsequently considered by the former Minister of Labour, who we know is the Honourable Tara Rivers. In light of that feedback received, including the proposed recommendations, the Labour Relations Bill will be revised in advance of further public consultation, which will be followed by a final revision and tabled in the Honorable House in 2019. Now, the reason why I pose the question is because there's so many failures within the current labor law that is of major concern for me. I think the labor law is probably one of the most important pieces of legislation in our country. And the reason I say that is because the labor law governs the relationship with an employee and an employer. A person's job is their access to funding to survive, to live, and have a good life. It's the reason how you pay your bills and put food in your children's mouth and keep a roof over your head, cause you not to go into foreclosure, and the list goes on. So we know how important it is to have a job and have an income. And if the regulations are filled with gaps and loopholes where persons can be violated wrongfully of that opportunity of being able to provide for yourself and your family, it could be chaotic. And I think one of the biggest failures that we have in this country is people are not protected on their jobs. Caymanians have to be protected to be able to survive. It's one of the biggest failures for me, and I want this bill to come because there's a lot of things that are not happening to protect Caymanians in the job force, and they're living in a life of fear every day, whether they're going to lose their job. And I'm not talking about people who are lazy and not doing their work. I'm talking about good, honest, strong Caymanians who go to work every day worried whether they'll be taken advantage of by some loophole in legislation or the lack of regulation to protect them from malicious employers. I think that this is probably the biggest bill that will be my focus in my 4 years that the people of Georgetown Central gave me, because it's the one legislation that protects Caymanians to feed themselves, and we have to live. And Caymanians are constantly under threat and respect job opportunities. So this is very important to me. I'm glad the Premier gave me an answer on that. Okay. I think we have a caller.
We have one caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. For the Record, and also to Mr. Kenneth.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
Kenneth, Bryan. I don't know if you've gone off topic. I heard you earlier, but I was busy at the time and couldn't call in. But, Mr. Bryan, MLA Bryan, I heard you talking in connection with emergency preparation.
Yes, sir.
And very appropriate topic, especially this time of year, and eyes are buzzing over in this direction. Let's hope he dissipates before you reach to us. Something that concerns me is that we do not seem to learn from our lessons that have been taught us. The lesson of Ivan, the lesson of flooding. I am still seeing around the place new housing schemes going in, new individual houses being built, government buildings being constructed that are all being constructed with the ground floor being at the level that where Ivan inundated 6-7 feet of water. Let's take the new airport, for example. We spend in 50, 60 million, whatever. That will work out to be. There was 6 feet of water going through the airport. One would think that it would be in the interest of sustainability of our tourism product, sustainability of supplies coming in, for when we have a hurricane, that the airport continues to function. Take a hose and wash off the places where the planes park, but the actual terminal building, the structure that's there, can function so people don't have to be outside in the hot sun, tents, or wherever, because the structure itself is destroyed internally. I must congratulate MRCU. They learned their new hangar for the MRCU planes is built up exceptionally high and will avoid the type of flooding that we had with Ivan the next time. Ivan type is coming, and Ivan's grandchildren are coming. Just a matter of time. Housing. we put in the new bypasses. Let's take the ones going east. That is going to change the floodplain and the way water flows when it comes across from the south coast, which it has done many, many, many times. And we continue to build the houses at the floor height that's going to flood out. A lot of people can no longer afford insurance on their homes. But if we build high enough, then their homes will not suffer this devastating damage, the health issues from mold and all that. And we spend money on the hazard management. The previous Mr. Frederick, I know, spoke about these things, but he was just about totally ignored by successive governments, successive cabinets, successive members of the Legislative Assembly. For us to really fundamentally change and learn from the past, learn from history, otherwise we're doomed to repeat it. And I wonder, sir, you're talking about the hurricane shelters, very appropriate. We have space, I think it's for 6,000 people, which is somewhere around that number. And we have 60-odd thousand people, and we have the one-party government that we have wanting to go to a population of 100+ thousand as fast as they can take it there. The pedal on the gas is to the floor, regardless of the confusion it brings. And I'm asking, sir, if you could continue to talk on those subjects and talk about planning. We have no development plan in this country. It's fought by successive governments. And I'm going to put this across the board in the past, all MLAs fight against a proper development plan because the government is controlled by the development industry. And they tell them, we don't want a development plan. We want the corruption where we can go to the proper boards and give them the discretion to give us, and we'll take care of the members on the boards. And these are fundamental things that is helping to drag Cayman down and to put our people at the bottom of the ladder with these great expenses after these weather events. Mm-hmm. So I would ask you to keep those things in mind as you continue to do a lot of the community-centered work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. Thanks, caller.
Caller, thank you so much for those insightful positions that you've taken. I agree with them in its totality. I think the caller is 100% right in respect to the concerns from an insurance perspective that we continue to approve homes to be built in low-lying areas and not suggesting by way of regulation or a policy decision to say for particular zones maybe there should be some consideration that they have to be built a little bit higher, maybe 3 or 4 blocks higher than the water line and potentially give persons concessions because we can't increase the cost of it on individuals to build their houses differently than the normal process without trying to help them along. And I think there's creative ways we can do that because insurance rates would be a lot cheaper for persons if they put in initiatives to protect themselves. So, for instance, if a home is built on stilts, and that homeowner can prove to the insurance company that, listen, this area, I will not be damaged by flood. It obviously brings the risk down from an insurance standpoint, and you can argue and debate in that respect. Maybe it's time to have discussions with the insurance companies that maybe if they're willing to give cheaper rates based on certain building codes or types, that we can bring down the cost of insurance as well, because the insurance companies base their rates on risk elements. And I'm surprised that we haven't developed our insurance schemes here to be considered with the building codes, and it's kind of all lumped together. So a person who is in a high rocky area, which is not prone to flooding, is paying the same insurance rates for a person who is in a low-lying area. But those concerns that you have are very important, particularly the proper development plan. I agree that there is a bit of control from the market that is not that is only doing it for their own interests. I don't think that's the case across the board. But we definitely need a long-term development plan, and we as a country have to decide that and stick to it. It seems to be changing every administration, so I agree with you on that. But the Lord will do what He needs to do, and hopefully, if He sees it fit that I am re-elected and I am part of the government or potentially a minister, that would definitely be a priority for me. So I thank you so much for your contribution. And unless we have another caller, I'm going to go on to the other question.
We do have one more caller. Let's go to the phone lines again. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to Mr. MLA, Mr. Kenneth, Bryan. You're always good to hear you on. So
good morning, sir.
Certainly doing the job that your people elected you to do. I don't want to have anything real to do about politics because, that's perennial. And sadly, a lot of the issues, I say, political motivated. But that's what politicians are supposed to do. Be politically motivated. That's why you're there. Anyhow, I'm not speaking about you in particular. But you are a politician, so we call it when you get elected. Even when you don't get elected, we call you a politician.
Very true.
The regards to the service, I do agree with you about, I agree with what Mr. Adams was saying about separations and doing certain things. And we can do a drainage system where you have pipes running and lift pumps and all that, but we'll see what you're talking about earlier on the area flooding. It's hard to get away from that in a low-lying country like we are. I saw it in Florida too, where piers are still flooded, and they have lift stations, they pumps all with place pumping, and they have sewerage and so forth. And in certain places, some places there are still septic tanks in Miami. The force, I thought that when we created the cadet corps, because in other countries it's officer material, it's done to as part of their regiments, their branch from the school days to groom officer material. And when you graduate, you're usually a sub-lieutenant or a second lieutenant or so forth for the country's armed services. But I know the other, we can't say just because we're a colony, because other colonies had their own regiments. Jamaica, Belize, Bermuda, I think, has had a... But you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. O.C. Bermuda has always had a regiment, I think.
Yes.
And Belize had one from a long, long time ago. I can tell anyone that. And long before they became independent, I think it was 78 if they became independent. I believe so. And the thing with the police force, we know we have 130 nationalities here. We can't possibly select 130 nationalities to be in our police force. I don't think that's right. We should be a system where you have to be Caymanized, and you have to understand, you're here working, then don't expect to see a policeman here in the force of your nationality. That's not a realistic concept. And I don't think we should think of things in that way where we have to find someone from each nationality. The U.S., of course, when you mention that, they are you have to be a citizen, and you have to be a citizen for a certain time, I believe, before you're accepted into the police force here. But you must be a U.S. citizen.
In the U.S.?
Yes, oh yes. Yes, you have to be a citizen.
You have to be a citizen? Okay.
U.S. citizen to be a police. I'm pretty sure of that. Immigration, anything, on most government departments, you can be hired on a contract, but that contract has a termination point in government there. But it's just as a consultant. But you must be a U.S. citizen to work with the U.S. government. You have to be. So the talk of the job thing, I agree with you. That's an issue we're going to have to face. I mean, opening businesses, we're going to have to face that you can only have so many businesses in a society where there are just so many people.
Be careful,
and I
because
think Yeah.
Caller, if I can say this, I would be careful how you say that, because the last time I said that on the floor of the House, I was accused to be a socialist by the member for Prospect. So I can handle the licks. I don't want him to call you a socialist as well.
They can call me anything, socialist, whatever. I'm not. I've always been a right-wing conservative, but one that's very considerate of fellow people. But but that is what I'm saying is it's a realistic thing that you can only have so many businesses, and we have businesses controlled. One of the things we've got to remember is this free market thing. Is that we do not have any form of direct income tax. So it's very, very difficult for the government to control things. It's difficult. It's even difficult to enforce the minimum wage law without some form of direct income tax. There's no returns made. Mm-hmm. And to control prices, you cannot have it without that.
Yeah.
I've said it 20 years ago.
Caller, we have to go to a commercial break now. We're actually way over the time. I want to thank you for your call. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Excuse me, I noticed you from afar.
Really? Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating.
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory-breaded, frozen and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger-licking good.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Can you explain what a less than container load is for shipment and what your minimum charge is?
Sure. A less than container load, or LCL, is any overseas shipment that does not require the full space of a container. At Seaboard, we have great rates for small packages. Just let us know the dimensions of your package and we'll help you out from there.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Did you hear that Vant Motors has your sale going on now? And you get your choice on the money you'll save on your new car or truck?
My sale? My choice? Really?
Yeah! And they have lots of cars on sale. Some up to $7,000 off.
Sounds pretty good.
It gets even better. You can choose to take the full discount, or you can get some or all of it as cash back.
Extra cash back would be great.
Exactly. And you can even use the savings to extend your warranty or service plan so you'll drive worry-free for years longer.
Another good idea.
If you want to upgrade with something like a new roof rack or backup camera, you can choose that too.
Wow, I get to choose?
Yeah, that's why it's your sale, your choice. Going on now at Vant Motors on Walkers Road, while stocks last.
Initiating system.
For information that matters, for the record, with Orrett Connor, continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Before I hand the mic back over to Mr. Bryan, I just want to wish a happy birthday to Kat. We call her Kat. Some of us call her Kat. Miss Katrina Stewart, one of our fellow cyclists. She's a very good cyclist, has a very smooth motion on that pink and white bike that she likes to ride, and her favorite color is pink. So those co-workers of Miss Katrina Stewart, I think she's in the planning. I think she works in the planning department now at Government Administration Building. If you're considering buying her a gift today, make sure that it is something pink. Or if you decide to buy flowers for her, pink flowers as well. And of course, her husband Sparrow wants to wish her happy birthday as well. Didn't see her out on the road this morning, but who wants to come out on the road on a bicycle on their birthday? I would stay home, as well. When I was that age, now I'm glad that I've seen another year in terms of a birthday, so I get out there and say, well, at least I can still cycle. So happy birthday to Miss Katrina Stewart, also known as Kat. Mr. Bryan.
Thank you. I also want to send happy birthday wishes to her as well. Because we're running out of time, I just want to quickly talk about the last question that I posed to the Honourable House in the last sitting in respect to the certificate program with the NICE program. Some of you may be aware that the government announced that through the NICE cleanup program, they're going to be awarding individuals who worked on it a certificate. And for me, I questioned the validity or the use of a certificate. What would this certificate say? And how will that certificate benefit these individuals from an employment perspective? Basically, the way people are hired are based on their qualifications or their experiences. And this certificate didn't have any way of justifying, well, okay, you're certified to do something. That's what a certificate means. You're certified to do something. And with no process, it sounds like they're just trying to throw something at the scenario, thinking that they're solving the problem. And when I posed the question was like this, and I want you to think about it. By all means, I'm not trying to undermine the fact that individuals are going to get a certificate of participation or what have you, but we have to be realistic of what that certificate can actually do for each individual. And I don't want to have my constituents, or any Caymanian for that fact, being too hopeful in respect to what government is offering, because the job market and the employers are, most of them that I've spoken to think this certificate is actually a joke. And I think it's a bit undermining rather than giving them true training programs. But that's my assessment. I want you to take your assessment based on the answer given. And again, I remind everybody, you can go to the GIS website, YouTube channel, and see the questions posed and the minister's answers. But the question was, can the Honourable Minister state what value will be placed on the certificates that are given to the participants of the NICE program, and how will their value be enforced in the Labour Department? Why I say the Labour Department, because obviously we're competing with outside competitors. If you're competing with a Caymanian, then whoever wins, because the Caymanian has to win. But how does somebody take this certificate that was given from the cleanup program and go and say, listen, I don't want you to hire this national from X, Y, and Z country because I have this certificate program. That certificate has to have some level of strength. And unfortunately, just to say you were on the side of the road picking up or cutting bush, I don't see a lot of persons in the market taking some validity to that. Anyway, the answer was given that, Mr. Speaker, for clarity, the participants will not be given a qualification certificate, but rather a letter of reference confirming their participation. That right there is basically my concern, is that they're selling something that is different than what it actually is. So again, this is the answer. For clarity, the participants will not be given a qualification certificate, but rather a letter of reference confirming their participation. So you're selling. See, I think they're playing politics, and I don't appreciate that, because if you want to give a Caymanian something that they can use for opportunities for work, give them a good training program. Give them something they can say, I can go to the job market. I can demand a good job because I am qualified with good training. You're going to look at my people and say, I can give you a certificate for participation. It is a joke. Now, granted, I don't want to undermine the value in one sense, because I don't want people to feel that I go, oh, the certificate is bad. But
which is more important? Is it the certificate or the experience that you've gained to obtain that certificate? The qualifications that you have gained, the skills that you have gained while earning that certificate. Because you have certificates kicking all over the place.
That's my point. That is my point. That's my point. So this maybe it's a matter of how the PR of it was sold. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I brought up is because a person who participated in it came to me feeling rather excited about the notion of having a certificate, and their expectations of what that certificate could do for them were unrealistic. That's my concern. So you're setting my people up to fail. If you want to give somebody a good training opportunity that they can use in the workforce as strength to say, I have a skill set, then that's fine. Bearing in mind, the NICE program is a program that was open to anybody, because the type of work, anybody can do it. So if anybody can do it, why do you need a certificate to say, I've done something that anybody can do? I'm not trying to undermine it, but I'm just saying be realistic and stop playing politics, saying, oh, the government is going to give out these certificates, all these Caymanians got certificates. Now, that's rubbish, man. That is rubbish. You want to give people legitimate things that they can use. Great. They feel emotionally good about it. That's good. I'm happy for the pleasure of that one moment. But realistically, the business owners, I was trying to say, okay, how is this going to work with a business owner? And I've talked to them. They go, Kenneth, they bring that to me, and they're not going to know value in respect of whether I'm going to hire them or not. So you now have business owners laughing at the people who we were trying to help in the first place. That's become a laughing stock. And hence the reason I put the question.
The NICE program is designed for what? To obtain a certificate or to help them along with a job. And at the same time, you give them a certificate so that you can have something to show an employer, a prospective employer, well, I participated in this program.
Honestly, right now, I'm going to tell you the perception in the business market that if you actually work for the NICE program, don't tell an employer. Don't tell them. Because there's a negative perception with the NICE program. And they're good people. All the people who come there
why
is there because it seems
perception?
Because in most cases, people think that there's a stigma or a category of people who only participate in this program. And that negative stigma gives negative connotations. Honestly, I've had people say, Kenneth, every time I bring that up, people like frown or they make a flinch or they make some smirk remark or something like that. And they stop saying it. And this person was a person who genuinely just said, at the time I didn't have any money. I'm going to take the 2 weeks of work, $10 an hour. So what I'm getting at, OC, is the NICE program was expected to have some level of development for my people, not only just to pay them out to do something. If that's the case, just give them the check. You know what I'm saying? We have to have more substance in that. I honestly must say that if I was in this administration and the government, I'd rather use that money and put them in a classroom rather than clean. We have public works for that. Put that same amount of money and effort that you had, put them in a classroom and give them something they can use. Do you hear the saying, don't give a person a fish, teach them how to fish for themselves. This is what this is doing. This is giving them a fish, and it's not working. We know that because every time
while you teach them how to fish, there has to be fish in the ocean to be caught too.
That's true too. And in this case, the government can make sure there's fish in the ocean. But I know we've come to that time of the day in OC. As usual, it was a pleasure speaking with you. The dialogue with you is always good. And I look forward for 2 weeks from now. I'm going to Parliament today. I look forward to that. I want to say a special thanks to all those who have been listening and those who are watching, and particularly to those in Georgetown Central. Thank you so much. I am working my hardest. I know I'm not perfect, but with you I can get better and we'll grow together. Special thanks to Kim and Brack again for the lovely hospitality that was given to myself and all the other members. I want to say God bless every single person here today, and remember to take care of each other and love yourselves.
Okay, thank you very much for being here, Mr. Bryan. We look forward to listening to you on Radio Cayman at the Legislative Assembly. 2 things I want to cover before we go, because I always like to fact check and ensure that my listening and viewing audience gets as much correct information as possible. They get as much information as possible. One of our callers was speaking about U.S. citizenship and the ability to hold jobs, and he stated that to be a police officer in the U.S., you have to be a U.S. citizen, and I must say that he was partially correct on that. And I found some information here that reads, most agencies in the country require officers or deputies to be U.S. citizens, but some are allowing immigrants who are legally in the country to wear the badge. From Hawaii to Vermont, agencies are allowing green card holders and legal immigrants with work permits to join their ranks. And there are articles, one by USA Today, police departments hiring immigrants as police officers. And so while the caller was correct to a certain extent, that has changed now. And there are some jurisdictions, some states from Vermont, Hawaii to Vermont, and others as well, that are allowing legal residents, green card holders, or work permit holders to join their ranks as well. As regards holding a federal job in the U.S. That means, not working for a city or a county, but for the federal U.S. government. It says under Executive Order 11935, only United States citizens and nationals may be appointed to competitive service federal jobs. In rare cases, agencies may hire certain non-citizens when there are no qualified U.S. citizens available unless the appointment is prohibited by statute. So just wanted to share that with my listening and my viewing audience, and then I want to thank them for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into their homes, into their vehicles as they traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into their places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if they're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind them that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Listen to the proceedings live from the Legislative Assembly on 105.3 FM. Join Sterling Twain Ebanks at 12:15 for talk today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking and pension needs, call or visit a Fidelity branch today. Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealerships serving the Cayman Islands. And Cayman Pharmacy Group, with locations in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. And Seaboard Marine. With over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling Seaboard Marine at 949-4977.